Okay, my name is Kevin Greer. I had a question from a Foam user about how to implement a simple feature. So I coded it up and I'm going to do a walkthrough of the code today. So the request was if you had some kind of like daily activities and you would like to record counts for them. So here I can say add cups of coffee, I don't know, sets of push-ups, glasses of water, etc. And then throughout the day, I could increment the count, and then tomorrow the counts would all reset and you could increment them again. So the top part is the app. The bottom part I've just for debugging purposes put the count table. So that's, and then if we reload, the counts all come back. So that was the question. And the main thing was how to do this little count view right here. So let's look at the code. So it's in the Foam demos DailyCount package. So first we have this daily thing, which is these buckets. This is just a simple model. It's in the Foam demos DailyCount package. It's called some daily thing. Has properties ID and data. And then here's the template. So I take the ID. It's read-only. Then I have the data. That's just that cup of coffee or a set of push-ups. And then to hook up the count view, I tie that also to the ID. So we actually have two ID views. But rather than using the regular one, I say I want to use this count view. So if we go back and look at it, this is the ID, this is the data field, and then this is also the ID field again, although it really obscures that. Okay, so that's the daily things. Then we have the count. So for each daily thing, we've got a daily count record for each day. This one's even simpler. Again, it's in the DailyCount package. It's called DailyCount. It has its ID, the thing ID, which is the ID of the thing, the date, and the count. Okay, and so for most Foam apps, we need a controller. Okay, so here, by convention, we name a controller. This extends model extends view. So this is going to be a view in the GUI. And then we list our requirements. This would be similar to a Java imports. So we need the easy DAO, the IDB DAO. So we're going to store the data in IndexedDB. We could store it in local storage. We could store it on the network. We could store it in an array, but that wouldn't be very useful. Okay. Then we require the daily count and the daily thing. Those other two models that we previously made. Unlike Java, you don't automatically get reference to other classes in the same package, so you have to require those. And we require detail view. Okay, we say we export counts. So in addition to having requires, Foam also has imports and exports, which are like dependency management. So we're exporting counts, which we'll get to in a second. So here are my properties, things, and this is a DAO of things. And also we have another DAO of counts. Okay. So in it, I said that I want the view for this to be a DAO list view. So that's a view for taking data out of a DAO and then just displaying it in a list. In the factory, we're going to use an easy DAO. This is a facade for creating, make it simpler to create DAOs. And then I have to tell it what type of things I want to store. I want to store daily things. I want to add caching. IndexedDB by itself is very slow. And if you turn on the caching, it speeds it up. And I want to automatically assign sequence numbers. So for counts, the default view is going to be a table view. And again, it's an easy DAO, except I want to store daily counts. Okay, actions. This is the add. That's the add button that we were pressing to add new things. And then I just say this.things, and this is the DAO of daily things put, and then this new daily thing create. So that creates a new daily thing. So anything that I've required, I no longer have to refer to the full package name. I don't have to say foam demos daily count dot daily thing. It just becomes this dot daily thing because I required it above. Then my template is I'm going to display the things. I'm going to display the add button, horizontal rule, and then I'm going to just display the table of counts below for debugging purposes. So we can go back again and look at the app. So this is the $$ things. This is the $$ add. This is the horizontal rule. And then this is the $$ counts. And they're all hooked up and bound for you. Okay, so that's just to set up the controller. But then the real question was, how do we do that count view? Okay, so here's the code for that. Again, it's the same package. Its name is count view. It extends view, just like the controller. Requires daily count, and it imports counts. So in the controller, it exported counts. So it exported its DAO, and then here we're importing it. So this view doesn't actually know that the controller exists. It's not going and asking the controller for the counts. It's just been imported by somebody who exported it, and that's a weak coupling between the view and the controller. Okay, it has properties, only count. Okay. Then methods on init.html. So once it's been initialized for the GUI, we call this.super. That's a common mistake. If you forget to do that, strange things will happen. And then I'm going to call update count. Now I have a convenience method called today, which will give me the time for the beginning of the day. Okay, here's the update count. So we actually have two methods really kind of that are similar, one to increment the count and one to get the original count. And they're kind of the same structure. So we just create one method and we get this parameter called increment. And if that is true, then not only will it get the count, but then it'll increment it by 1. And if it's false, it'll just set the count and not increment. Okay. We say today is this.today. Then we say this.count. So this is the count, the daily count DAO. And then find. And I want to do and. The daily count thing ID is this.data. So remember, we did $ID. We bound this to the ID. So when you bind a view to a property, its data gets set to the properties that you bound it to. So this is the ID. So we want to find a daily count whose thing ID is the thing's ID. And then we want to say that the date is today. And then we give 2 callbacks. So put will be called if we find the data, and error will be called if we don't find the data. So if we find the data, we set our count to be the counts count. And if increment was requested, then we increment that count, and then we put the count back into the DAO. And then this will cause it to increment by 1. If we got an error, well, then there's nothing to do unless we want to increment. If we want to increment, we set our count to be 1. And then we put a new daily count in with a count of 1, and we set the thing ID and the date. Okay. Actions, we have this little increment button. So it'll appear as a method on this class called increment, but the label in the UI will appear as plus. And when we call that, the code that will be called is update count, and then the increment is true. So we call on startup update count without increment, and when we press the plus button, we call update increment with true. Our template is just display the count in read-only mode and then display the increment button. And again, we can go look at that. So there's the count, and then here's the increment button. To run this, we didn't need a custom HTML. For many foam apps, you don't need new HTML. You can just call index HTML and tell it what model you want to run. So here we're just going to run foam demos daily count controller. And that's it.